This is a real stunner. And I'll tell you, this is a portent of what can happen in the NBA and might happen in the NBA. I'm going to tell you about the trade, and I'll tell you how I'm going to link it to something else. There's a story out there. It's not gotten national recognition, but people should be paying attention. The Minnesota Timberwolves traded their big starting high-scoring forward. There were all kinds of issues with Karl Anthony Towns in terms of relationship with the other big guy, Rudy Gobert. Anyhow, Minnesota traded Towns, averaging 23 points and 10 rebounds a game, and a number 1 draft pick. They go to the New York Knicks for their unhappy shooting forward, Julius Randle, former number 1 pick, averaging 24 points per game, plus 3-point shooter Devontae DiVincenzo. The big issue, and the story hasn't spilled out yet, Minnesota cannot afford to pay 3 guys $40 million apiece, and that's where the contracts with stars have gone. I mean, they have Anthony Edwards, they have Gobert, they had Towns. Each was making between 40 and 43. Minnesota's ownership says, we do not have the ability to create that kind of revenue to bring it in so it can go to the players. So they traded Towns. I don't think they got fair value back. Julius Randle is a streaky shooter, is kind of a bit of a head case, but they gave up on him. Connect the dots to this story. Boston Celtics won the NBA championship last spring. Phenomenal team came together. Everybody's contract kind of came up at the same time. Everybody's making $40 million. There's 3 stars on the team, plus all the support guys are making mega bucks. That's why that family just announced, once they got to the championship parade over, we're putting the team up for sale. We can't afford. They're going to lose $80 million this season. The Celtics, the championship Celtics, with all the sponsorships and all the they're going to lose $80 million this year because of the cost of the contracts. And suddenly I looked at the Minnesota story, and that was the first thing that flashed into my mind on the weekend was the NBA, even the glory of everybody making $40 million, they're headed for disaster because there's no way to recoup all this money to pay all these guys. I mean, Boston's got 3 guys making 40, and the owners put the championship team up for sale at the peak of their success. And Minnesota has 3 superstars, and their owner says, can't do it. We're going to make a trade. I think NBA is headed for trouble. Anyhow, so that's the big story in pro basketball there. Your response?
Yeah, well, it's clearly the Timberwolves, gave up a lot. I think the Knicks won the deal. But it is interesting, the money thing, because when you're first explaining, I'm thinking, okay, Minneapolis, not as big of a market, but if Boston was struggling, now granted, I know for Boston, it's probably like a play toy for the billionaire owner, but at some point you got to say, hey man, we can't keep giving money away. It's fascinating how all these pieces are rolling together, because I remember like the Lakers roster is loaded. That's one of the most expensive in the league, right?
Well, they got 2 guys making all the money. The rest of the guys are way down the chart.
But even the guys way down the chart are still pulling like $20 million a year, which is just unbelievable. So I don't know. I don't know what this means for the NBA, man. They got to figure out a way to get more revenue.
I think there's a problem on the horizon. I really do.
Wow.
And again, the union has a right to negotiate under your form of capitalism to get every dollar you can get out of the owner for every player.
Yeah, of course.
But now when you got 2 of your marquee teams say, we can't afford this, we're losing too much money, paying what the union wants us to pay, game's going to change. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, you're an NBA fan. You follow pro basketball. Who do you think got the better of that trade? And do you agree or disagree with me? There's a problem on the horizon in pro basketball with the salary structure, not just for the stars, but for everybody else. That's one topic. Next